The crystal towers of Nexus Prime stretched toward the stars like frozen lightning. Inside the massive council chamber, beings from 17 different worlds sat in perfect circles that rose toward a dome of pure starlight. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime as hundreds of languages merged into one unified voice of galactic civilization. Ambassador Kang Minho stepped through the entrance doors, his black diplomatic uniform simple compared to the flowing robes and energy suits around him. Behind him walked Park Ji-won, a military officer whose sharp eyes scanned every exit and potential threat. Lee Soo-young followed last, carrying a case filled with Earth's greatest scientific achievements, though she already suspected they would not impress anyone here. The three humans moved across the polished floor while thousands of alien eyes watched them. Some beings floated in energy bubbles. Others stood on 4 legs or 6 arms. A few looked almost human, but their skin shimmered with colors that changed like oil on water. All of them stared at the newcomers with the same expression Minho had, seen in zoos back on Earth. "The representatives from the world called Earth," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "They seek membership in our Galactic Council." Chancellor Valaxis rose from his throne near the center of the chamber. He stood 12 feet tall with skin like polished silver and eyes that glowed soft blue. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who had never been questioned. "Humans," he said, making the words sound like something dirty. "We have studied your world. You fight wars over water. You burn your own atmosphere for energy. Your fastest ships barely reach 1% of light speed." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter, but the kind adults make when children try to join grown-up conversations. Minho felt heat rise in his cheeks but kept his face calm. Park Ji-won's hand moved slightly toward his sidearm before stopping. Lee Soo-young just watched and listened, her mind already working on the real reason they had come here. "Your species has potential," continued another voice. Counselor Threnox of the Commerce Guild stood up, his insect-like body clicking as he moved. "But you are children playing with fire. Look at your own history. Millions dead in wars over land that could have been shared. Weapons that could destroy your entire world." "We have moved beyond such things," Minho said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "Humanity has learned from its mistakes. We offer our experience and our determination to help build a better galaxy." The laughter grew louder. Somewhere in the upper circles, a being that looked like living crystal chimed in musical tones. The translation came through as, "They think their primitive violence makes them strong." Chancellor Valaxis raised one long-fingered hand, and the chamber fell silent. "Humans, your application for membership has been reviewed. The Council has reached a unanimous decision." Minho straightened, though he already knew what was coming from the smug expressions around him. "Earth will be granted protected developing species status," Valaxis announced. "Under Galactic Law 847 Delta, your world will be guided by Council oversight for the next 500 standard years. We will help you grow beyond your violent nature and primitive technology." The words hit like a physical blow. 500 years of being treated like children. 500 years of alien bureaucrats deciding what humanity could and could not do. Minho's jaw tightened, but his diplomatic training held. "And if we refuse this generous offer?" he asked, his voice steady. "Then you return to your single world and stay there," Threnox clicked. "The galaxy is vast and dangerous. Species that try to expand too quickly often find themselves extinct." Park Ji-won took a half-step forward. "Is that a threat?" "It is reality," Valaxis said. "Young species need protection from themselves and from others. Accept our guidance, and humanity will survive to see the stars. Refuse, and—" He spread his hands in a gesture that somehow looked both sad and threatening. Lee Soo-young moved closer to Minho and whispered, "The orbital platforms around this station. They're tracking our ship." Minho nodded slightly. He had expected this. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations did not stay in power by taking chances with unknown species. "We request time to consider your offer," Minho said formally. "Of course," Valaxis smiled, showing teeth like polished gems. "Take all the time you need. Your ship is welcome to remain in our space for the standard diplomatic period." A floating drone approached their group, carrying a crystal data storage device. "These contain the development guidelines your species will follow," the drone's speaker announced. "Educational reforms, technological restrictions, approved cultural evolution paths, everything humanity needs to join the galactic community safely." Minho took the crystal, feeling its weight. Such a small thing to hold the chains of an entire world. The three humans were escorted from the chamber by guards who floated rather than walked. As they moved through corridors filled with art and technology beyond Earth's understanding, Park Ji-won spoke quietly into his communicator. "Sol Dawn, this is ground team. Prepare for immediate departure." Captain Yoon Tae-hyun's voice crackled back through the secure channel. "Understood. I count 47 weapons platforms keeping us painted. They're not even trying to hide it." "They don't need to," Minho said as they entered their shuttle. "We're primitives, remember? What threat could we possibly pose?" 20 minutes later, the Sol Dawn cleared Nexus Prime's gravity well and jumped to faster-than-light speed. In the ship's conference room, Minho opened the crystal and began reading the Council's requirements. Agricultural quotas, population limits, banned technologies, mandatory cultural observers. "They want to turn us into pets," Park Ji-won said, reading over his shoulder. "No," Lee Soo-young corrected, her fingers dancing over her tablet as she analyzed data they had secretly gathered. "They want to make sure we never become a threat. Look at these specifications. Everything designed to keep us weak and dependent. The journey back to Earth took 6 days. 6 days for the three humans to plan and think and remember their history. When they finally reached Sol's system, Admiral Kim Hee-jin was waiting for their report." She listened in silence as Minho described the Council's offer. Her weathered face showed no emotion as she reviewed the development guidelines. Only her aide, Commander Oh Jae-min, noticed her hands slowly curl into fists. 500 years, she said finally. "Yes, ma'am? And if we refuse?" "They made it clear what happens to species that expand too quickly," Park Ji-won said. Admiral Kim stood and walked to the window of Seoul Command Center. Outside, Earth's first interstellar fleet floated in formation around the orbital shipyards. Small ships by galactic standards, primitive technology according to the Council, Admiral, Minho asked. Kim Hee-jin turned back to face them, and for the first time since entering the chamber on Nexus Prime, Minho saw someone smile. "The galaxy just made a very serious mistake," she said. "They looked at humanity and saw weakness. They saw our wars and called us primitive. They saw our struggles and called us children. Ma'am. They forgot the most important lesson our own history taught us," Admiral Kim continued. "The most dangerous thing in the universe is not the biggest predator or the most advanced technology." She looked out at the ships again, and her smile grew colder. "The most dangerous thing is cornering something that knows how to fight." 6 months had passed since the Sol Dawn returned from Nexus Prime. The crystal containing the Galactic Council's demands sat in a locked vault beneath Seoul Command Center, untouched and unanswered. Earth had gone completely quiet. No diplomatic messages left the solar system. No trade requests went out to nearby worlds. Even the routine navigation beacons that helped ships find safe passage through asteroid fields had stopped broadcasting. To the galaxy watching from afar, humanity appeared to be sulking like children sent to their room. They could not have been more wrong. In the shadow of Saturn's rings, Chief Engineer Cho Min-soo floated inside a construction facility that officially did not exist. Around him, thousands of workers in spacesuits moved like ants, building something impossible. The facility stretched for kilometers, carved into asteroids and hidden behind sensor-dampening fields that made it invisible to any ship passing through the system. "Report," Cho said into his communicator as he watched another hull section slide into place. "Production Line 7 is ahead of schedule," came the reply from his deputy. "The new alloy works better than expected, stronger than hegemony battle. Steel but half the weight." Cho smiled behind his helmet visor. The galaxy thought human metallurgy was primitive. They had never seen what happened when human engineers stopped playing by alien rules and started breaking them instead. On the other side of the facility, Dr. Nam Yunji supervised teams testing weapons that would have made the Galactic Council very nervous. Her lab workers called them crude kinetic systems when they wrote reports. The aliens would probably laugh at metal slugs shot from magnetic rails, until those slugs started moving at 30% of light speed. "Test firing. In 60 seconds, announced the range officer. Through the viewing port, Yunji watched as a rail gun the size of a city block aimed at a target made from captured alien armor plating. The weapon fired silently in the vacuum of space. One moment the target existed. The next moment it was expanding. Plasma and metal fragments. The energy shields that protected galactic warships simply could not handle kinetic impact at those speeds. "Note the results," Yunji told her assistant, "and increase the charge for the next test." Back on Earth, General Wan Seokjin stood in a war room that had been expanded 3 times in 6 months. Holographic displays showed every known galactic military base, trade route, and communication relay within 500 light years. His intelligence chief, Director An Yuna, pointed to areas marked in red. "Their patrol patterns never change," she said. "Same routes, same schedules, same formation flying. They have not fought a real war in over 200 years. "What about their technology advantage?" one asked. "Overrated," An replied. "Their ships are built for intimidation, not combat. Energy shields, plasma weapons, fancy sensors. But look at their armor thickness. Look at their maneuvering capability. They build ships like museums, not weapons." One nodded. The galaxy had grown soft. When your biggest threat was primitive species with chemical rockets, you stopped preparing for real battles. Earth's own history was different. Humans had spent centuries learning how to kill other humans efficiently. Now they just needed to scale up. On Luna Base, Captain Lee Do-hyun watched his pilots practice combat maneuvers that the galaxy had forgotten existed. His best flight leader, Bae Mira, rolled her fighter through moves that would have torn apart any alien craft built for comfort and long patrols. "Speed is life," Do-hyun told his new pilots during briefings. "Aliens build ships like luxury hotels. We build ships like bullets. Fast, hard, and pointed." Squadron Commander Ryu Sung-jae led formation exercises where human fighters moved like schools of fish, each pilot thinking as part of a group mind that communicated through quantum-entangled systems the aliens had never seen before. While galactic fighters relied on individual skill and advanced computers, humans had learned to fight as one organism with many parts. The breakthrough moment came during a test combat simulation. Ryu's squadron faced off against computer models of hegemony patrol ships using captured technical specifications. The alien ships were bigger, faster, and had better weapons on paper. The humans destroyed them in 4 minutes. "How?" asked the simulation observer. "They cannot hit what they cannot predict," Ryu explained. "Their computers calculate perfect flying patterns. We fly like humans, messy, random, angry." Deep in the asteroid belt, Captain Yoon Tae-hyun supervised the final tests of humanity's new faster-than-light drive systems. The technology was based on alien principles but rebuilt using human engineering that pushed every component beyond its designed limits. "Jump Test 17 commencing," announced the test coordinator. A small probe ship activated its drive and vanished, reappearing 30 light-years away in less than 2 seconds. 17.4 times faster than standard galactic drives, reported the sensor operator, and completely undetectable until arrival. Taehyun nodded with satisfaction. Aliens built their technology to last for centuries with minimal maintenance. Humans built their technology to work perfectly for exactly as long as they needed it to work. The difference in performance was stunning, but the real preparation was happening in facilities even more secret than the weapons laboratories. Admiral Kim Hyejin stood in a command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching displays that showed the true scope of humanity's response to the galaxy's ultimatum. Fleet construction is at 90%, reported her aide, Commander Oh Jae-min. All ships will be ready within 2 weeks. Crew training? Complete. Every pilot, every gunner, every Marine has run full combat simulations based on captured alien tactical data. Kim nodded. Around her, hundreds of officers coordinated the largest military buildup in human history. Ships, weapons, fighters, troops, supply lines, communication networks. Everything hidden from galactic sensors by a combination of technology and careful planning. The galaxy thought humanity had approximately 50 interstellar ships. The real number was closer to 5,000. Any word from our intelligence assets? Kim asked. Director On reports that galactic patrol schedules remain unchanged. They still consider us a non-threat. Kim allowed herself a small smile. Perfect. The breaking point came during a routine survey mission. The research ship Discovery, carrying 200 civilians including families, was mapping mineral deposits in an asteroid field just outside Council space. The work was legal under galactic law and completely peaceful. The hegemony patrol ship Dominance arrived without warning and opened fire without communication. Captain Lee Young-ho barely had time to send a distress signal before his ship was torn apart by plasma cannons. Among the dead were 63 children on their first trip away from Earth. The message reached Earth 12 hours later. President Shin Hana read the casualty reports in her office while Admiral Kim stood at attention. Outside the windows of the presidential palace, normal life continued. People went to work, children played in parks, traffic moved through busy streets. None of them knew that their government had just decided to go to war with the galaxy. 200 civilians, President Shin said quietly. Yes, ma'am. Including children. Yes, ma'am. President Shin closed the report and looked up at Admiral Kim. What are your recommendations? The fleet is ready, ma'am. We can begin operations immediately. And the consequences? Unknown, ma'am. But the galaxy has made it clear what happens to species that do not submit to their authority. President Shin was quiet for a long moment. Then she opened her desk drawer and took out a small device that had never been used. The authorization key for humanity's war machine. Admiral Kim, she said formally. Yes, ma'am. Show them what humanity learned in our darkest hours. Kim accepted the key and saluted. Yes, ma'am. Consider it done. 24 hours later, every human military unit in the solar system received the same message. Operation Silent Thunder was now active. The galaxy would learn why cornering a predator was always a mistake. The first sign that something was wrong came when Counselor Vexitar could not reach his subordinates on the outer rim. Communication relays that had worked perfectly for 300 years suddenly went silent, one after another, in a pattern that spread toward the galaxy's core like ripples on a pond. Equipment failure, announced the technician monitoring the communications board on Nexus Prime. Probably solar flares in the Kepler sector. Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the pattern on his display screen. Solar flares did not move in straight lines. Solar flares did not target communication nodes with surgical precision, and solar flares definitely did not cut every single relay between the outer rim and the hegemony's military headquarters. Send a patrol ship to investigate, he ordered. Yes, Counselor. The cruiser. Watchful Eye is 3 hours out. Vextar watched the ship's icon move across his screen toward the dead zone. Then it too vanished without sending so much as a distress signal. 50. Light years away, Admiral Kim Hee-jin stood on the bridge of her flagship Incheon's Fury and watched her crews work with deadly efficiency. Around her, the command center hummed with quiet activity as officers coordinated the largest military operation in human history. "Communication grid is severed," reported Captain Park Ji-won from his position at the tactical display. "All galactic forces in the outer sectors are now blind and deaf." "Excellent," Kim replied. "Signal all units. Phase 2 begins now." Navigator Choi Young-ho input coordinates into the jump computer. "Course laid in for Kepler Station, Admiral. All ships report ready." Kim nodded. Kepler Station was the hegemony's most important military base, a fortress built into a dead planet that supposedly could not be destroyed by any weapon in the galaxy. Today, humanity would test that claim. "All ships," Kim announced over the fleet communication system. "Jump." Reality twisted around the human fleet as 500 warships vanished from normal space and reappeared in the Kepler system. Alarms immediately started screaming on every galactic ship and station as sensors detected the massive energy signatures of humanity's arrival. "Unknown vessels, this is Kepler Station Control," came the transmission from the fortress. "You are in violation of hegemony space. Identify yourselves immediately or face destruction." Admiral Kim smiled coldly. "This is Admiral Kim Hye-jin of the Earth Fleet. You murdered our civilians. Now you pay the price." The response from Kepler Station was exactly what she expected. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids opened fire, sending streams of superheated energy toward the human ships. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy any ship the galaxy had ever seen. But the galaxy had never seen ships like these. The human vessels danced between the plasma streams like dancers avoiding raindrops. Their new engines allowed them to change direction instantly, making their movements impossible to predict. Where galactic ships flew in straight lines and perfect formations, the humans moved like a swarm of angry insects. Wing Commander Yoon So-young led the first fighter attack against the station's outer defenses. Her squadron of 200 small craft moved in patterns that made alien computers malfunction from trying to calculate intercept courses. "Remember your training," she told her pilots over the communication system. "Fast, random, and angry. Make them fear the sky." The human fighters broke through the defensive screen like it was made of paper. Their weapons were simple metal slugs accelerated to incredible speeds, but they punched through energy shields that had never been designed to stop solid projectiles moving that fast. Chief Tactical Officer Moon Ji-hoon coordinated the main assault. From the Incheon's Fury, his job was to find the weak points in Kepler Station's armor and exploit them with surgical precision. "Target the thermal exhaust ports," he ordered. "Hit them with everything we have." Human railguns opened fire from maximum range. The metal slugs traveled so fast, they became visible as streaks of light crossing the darkness between the fleet and the station. When they hit, the fortress shuddered like a living thing in pain. "Impossible," transmitted a panicked voice from the station. "Nothing can penetrate our armor." "Your armor was designed to stop energy weapons," Moon replied calmly. "We use kinetic energy, basic physics." The station's outer hull began to peel away like skin from an overripe fruit. Atmospheric gases vented into space as the humans systematically destroyed everything that kept the fortress operational. But Admiral Kim wanted more than just destruction. She wanted prisoners, she wanted information, and most importantly, she wanted the galaxy to understand exactly what humanity was capable of when properly motivated. "Launch the boarding parties," she ordered. Commander Seo Hansel led the first wave of Marines toward the station's main docking bay. His soldiers wore powered armor that made them look like mechanical demons, and they moved with the fluid grace of predators who had evolved for exactly this kind of combat. The galactic defenders were waiting for them, armed with plasma rifles and energy shields. They had superior technology and defensive positions. What they did not have was experience fighting something that wanted to hurt them personally. Human Marines had learned to fight in the dirty wars of their own world. They knew how to use cover, how to move as a team, and how to think like hunters instead of policemen. When the first defender showed himself around a corner, 3 Marines hit him from different angles before he could fire a shot. "Advance by squads," Seo ordered as his troops moved deeper into the station. "Watch for ambushes and remember that fear is a weapon." The hegemony soldiers had never faced an enemy that fought with such controlled violence. They were used to orbital bombardments and long-range energy duels. Hand-to-hand combat was something their species had evolved beyond centuries ago. Humans had not evolved beyond anything. They had just gotten better at it. Sergeant Ku Jae-hyuk kicked down a blast door and led his squad into a corridor filled with alien soldiers. The firefight was brief and brutal. Human weapons spat metal death, while human armor shrugged off return. Fire. When the smoke cleared, 8 defenders were down, and the humans had not lost anyone. "Sector 7 is clear," Jae-hyuk reported. Advancing toward the command center. The breakthrough came when Corporal Jang Sua found a maintenance shaft that led directly to the station's main computer core. Her team of technical specialists moved through the narrow passage like ghosts, emerging behind the galactic defense. "Lines! Surprise!" she said as her squad opened fire on the rear guard. The battle for Kepler Station lasted exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, the most powerful fortress in the hegemony was under human control, and Chancellor Valaxis himself was a prisoner in his own command center. The same being who had mocked humanity 6 months earlier now knelt in his ruined headquarters while human soldiers stood guard. His silver skin had lost its shine, and his glowing blue eyes showed something the galaxy had not seen in them for 200 years. "Fear. This is impossible," he whispered as Admiral Kim entered the command center. "Your species is primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours." Kim looked down at the Chancellor and smiled the same cold smile she had worn in Seoul Command Center months earlier. "Your mistake was thinking that advanced technology makes advanced warriors," she said. "You forgot that the most dangerous predator is not the biggest or the strongest. It is the one that remembers how to hunt." She turned to her communication. "Officer, send a message to all galactic forces. Tell them that Kepler Station has fallen. Tell them that humanity is no longer asking for membership in their council." "What should I say we want instead?" the officer asked. Kim looked out at the stars through the command center's massive windows. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was, about to learn that the age of easy dominance was over. "Tell them we want them to remember why their ancestors learned to fear the dark." The news of Kepler Station's fall reached Nexus Prime in a stream of panicked transmissions from surviving patrol ships. Grand Admiral Zefkol of the Combined Galactic Fleet stood in the Crisis Command Center, watching as red warning lights painted his face in bloody shadows. "How many ships did the humans use?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Approximately 500, sir. All unknown designs." Zefkol's tentacles writhed in confusion. The galaxy's records showed that Earth possessed maybe 50 interstellar vessels, all primitive by galactic standards. Where had 500 advanced warships come from? Could they have received help from another species? "Negative, sir. All weapon signatures are human in origin, crude kinetic systems, but extremely effective." "Then we end this now," Zefkol decided. "Signal all fleet commanders. I want every available ship converging on the Sol system. We will destroy their home world and end this rebellion before it spreads." Within hours, the largest military force in galactic history began moving toward Earth. Over 10,000 ships from 7 different species, armed with weapons that could crack planets. The armada that had once conquered half the galaxy was coming to teach humanity the price of defying the established order. They arrived at the edge of the Sol system, expecting to find a primitive civilization hiding behind their home planet. Instead, they found something that made even veteran commanders pause in shock. The entire solar system had been turned into a fortress. Defense Coordinator Yang Min-jung watched the galactic fleet from her command post, buried deep inside Ceres asteroid. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of 10,000 defensive platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt, each one armed with weapons the aliens had never seen before. "All stations report ready," announced her aide. "Gravitational. Mines are active, railgun platforms are charged, and fighter squadrons are standing by." Yang smiled as she watched the alien fleet formation. They were flying in perfect parade order, maintaining precise distances between ships like they were on their way to a celebration instead of a battle. "They still do not understand," she murmured. "Signal all units. Let them come deeper into our web." The galactic fleet advanced confidently into the outer solar system, their sensors sweeping for signs of human ships. They found nothing on their scopes except empty space and drifting rocks. That was when engineer Kwon Dae-hyun activated his masterpiece. The gravitational mines had been his idea, based on technology stolen from a dozen different alien races, but improved with human engineering. They were invisible until activation, and when they turned on, they created artificial gravity wells that could pull ships off course. The first galactic dreadnought to hit a mine was the Hegemon's Pride, a massive vessel carrying 5,000 crew members. One moment it was flying in formation with its squadron. The next moment it was tumbling helplessly toward a cluster of asteroids that suddenly bristled with weapon ports. "What is happening?" demanded Grand Admiral Zefkol as his ships began falling out of formation. "Unknown gravitational anomalies throughout the system," reported his science officer. "They appear to be artificial, but our sensors show nothing." The human response was immediate and overwhelming. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from asteroids like flowers blooming in fast motion. Railguns that had been disguised as space debris opened fire with streams of metal projectiles moving at impossible speeds. Captain Lim Jung-woo commanded the defensive ring around Mars, where humanity's orbital stations had been converted into massive gun batteries. His crews had spent months practicing for this moment, and now they fired with mechanical precision. "Target the command ships first," he ordered. "Make them blind before we make them dead." The battle for Seoul became a masterclass in defensive warfare. While the galactic fleet tried to maintain formation and fight according to their standard tactics, the humans attacked from every direction using weapons that ignored traditional defenses. Admiral No Chae-young led hit-and-run attacks. From the asteroid belt, her ships appearing from behind rocks to fire devastating volleys before vanishing again. Her crews had learned to use the solar system's own geography as a weapon, turning familiar space into a maze of death for the invaders. "We are not fighting ships," she told her captains over the communication system. "We are fighting everything. They think they know about war." But the real surprise came when Dr. Kim Sunmin's quantum weapon research finally reached the battlefield. Her teams had spent months developing devices that could manipulate the fundamental forces of physics in localized areas. The first quantum disruptor activated near a squadron of hegemony cruisers. Suddenly, the laws of physics changed in a sphere 50 kilometers wide. Plasma weapons stopped working, energy shields collapsed, gravity reversed direction. "Impossible," transmitted a panicked alien captain as his ship began falling upward, toward empty space. "The laws of physics cannot be changed." "Physics is just engineering. We have not figured out yet," Dr. Kim replied from her laboratory on Luna. "And humans are very good at engineering." The turning point came when Grand Admiral Zefkol realized that his massive fleet was being destroyed piecemeal by an enemy that refused to fight fair. His ships were designed for glorious battles between fleets in open space. The humans had turned space itself into their ally. "All ships, concentrate fire on the third planet," he ordered. "Destroy their homeworld and end this madness." But when his dreadnoughts turned toward Earth, They found their path blocked by something that made their weapons officers check their sensors twice. Captain Hong Minji commanded the battleship Soul's Revenge, leading a formation of human ships that had been hiding behind Earth's moon. Her vessel was half the size of the alien dreadnoughts, but it moved with predatory grace as it accelerated toward the enemy fleet. "All ships, attack pattern Alpha," she transmitted to her squadron. "Show them how humans fight when defending their home." The human ships hit the galactic formation like a hammer striking glass. Their weapons were crude by alien standards, but they were fired by crews who had grown up learning about warfare from a species that had perfected the art of killing. Sergeant Ku Jaehyuk led a boarding party onto Zeph Cole's flagship through a hull breach created by railgun fire. His Marines moved through the alien ship like avenging angels, their powered armor making them unstoppable in the narrow corridors. Corporal Jang Sua planted explosives on the ship's main reactor, while alien crew members fled in terror. They had never seen soldiers who fought with such controlled fury, turning their own ship into a weapon against them. "Reactor charges set," she reported. "We have 3 minutes to get out." But Ku had other plans. "Negative. We take the bridge. First, the Admiral needs prisoners." The battle for the flagship's command center was the most brutal fighting of the war. Galactic Marines tried to stop the human advance using energy weapons and force fields, but the humans had learned to fight in environments where such technology did not exist. When the smoke cleared, Grand Admiral Zeph Cole found himself on his knees in his own command center, surrounded by human soldiers whose armor still glowed from energy weapon impacts. "This is impossible," he whispered as Captain Hong entered the bridge. "Your species is barely spacefaring. We have ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years." Hong removed her helmet, revealing a face marked by old scars from battles fought in Earth's own wars. She looked down at the alien commander with the expression of a predator who had just proven which species was really at the top of the food chain. "Your mistake was thinking that ruling made you strong," she said. "You forgot that to keep power, you must be willing to fight for it." Around them, the remains of the galactic fleet burned in the cold vacuum of space. Of the 10,000 ships that had come to destroy Earth, fewer than 1,000 remained functional. The rest were debris, life pods, and wreckage drifting between. "The planets. Send a message to the Galactic Council," Hong ordered her communication officer. "Tell them that the age of easy dominance is over. Tell them that humanity has awakened and we are not going back to sleep." She looked out at the stars, through the bridge windows, where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the darkness. "Tell them that the prey has learned to hunt." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in a chamber that felt more like a funeral than a government meeting. Where once 17 species had sat in confident circles, now only 9 remained. The others had declared neutrality, fled to distant systems, or openly joined the human alliance after witnessing the destruction of the combined fleet. Counselor Threnox clicked nervously as he read reports from across the galaxy. Human ships had appeared in dozens of systems simultaneously, not as conquerors, but as protectors offering freedom to species that had been oppressed under galactic rule for centuries. "The Veltari have accepted human protection," he announced to the nearly empty chamber. "So have the Corvin mining colonies and the agricultural worlds of the outer spiral." The few remaining council members sat in stunned silence. Their 1,000-year empire was crumbling not through conquest, but through choice. Species after species was choosing human protection over galactic authority. "How many ships do the humans have?" asked Counselor Vextar, his 4 eyes darting around the chamber like a trapped animal. "Unknown," Threnox replied. "Our intelligence estimates range from 5,000 to 50,000. They seem to build vessels faster than we can count them." The truth was both simpler and more terrifying. Humanity had not just built a fleet. They had built an entirely new way of thinking about space warfare, manufacturing, and diplomacy that made the old galactic system obsolete. The great doors of the council chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Ambassador Kang Minho entered, but he was no longer the humble diplomat who had been dismissed 6 months earlier. Now he wore the uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, and behind him walked Admiral Kim Hyejin in full military dress. The remaining council members shrank back, in their seats, as the two humans approached the speaker's platform. There were no guards to stop them. The galactic security forces had either surrendered or simply abandoned their posts when news of the Sol system battle reached Nexus Prime. "Honorable council members," Minho said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We come to discuss the new reality of galactic politics." "You cannot simply dictate terms to the council," Thrinox protested, though his voice lacked conviction. "We represent the legitimate government of civilized space." Admiral Kim stepped forward, her expression calm but her presence radiating the quiet confidence of someone who had just proven exactly how dangerous humanity could be when properly motivated. "You represent nothing," she said simply. "Your fleets are destroyed. Your member species are fleeing to join us. Your authority exists only in this building, and only because we allow it." Across the galaxy, human ships were indeed bringing a new order to thousands of worlds, but they were not conquering, they were liberating. President Shin Hana addressed the galaxy from her office in Seoul, her words broadcast through quantum communication networks that reached every inhabited system. Behind her, the flags of dozens of species flew alongside. "Earth's banner! Today begins a new age," she announced. "No longer will advanced species dominate primitive ones through threat and intimidation. No longer will entire worlds be classified as children who need supervision. The galaxy belongs to all of us, and all of us will have a voice in how it is governed." On worlds throughout the spiral arms, species that had lived under galactic oppression for generations watched human ships arrive not as conquerors but as allies. The humans brought technology, protection, and most importantly, respect for the right of every species to determine its own destiny. Dr. Lee Soo-young had been promoted to Earth's first galactic science coordinator, working with researchers from hundreds of different worlds to share knowledge that the old council had hoarded for themselves. Her laboratories buzzed with activity as alien scientists worked alongside human engineers to develop technologies that benefited everyone instead of just the ruling species. "The galaxy has so much potential," she told her mixed species research teams. "We just needed to stop wasting it on maintaining artificial hierarchies." Captain Yoon Tae-hyun commanded the new Earth Embassy ship, a vessel that bore scars from the Battle of Seoul, but flew with pride through systems that had never seen human diplomacy before. His mission was not to threaten or intimidate, but to offer partnership to any species ready to embrace freedom. The ship's hull still showed damage from galactic plasma weapons, and Tae-hyun made sure it stayed that way. Every alien who saw those scars understood exactly what happened to those who threatened humanity's allies. Back in the council chamber on Nexus Prime, the remaining representatives faced a choice that would determine the fate of their civilizations. Ambassador Minho had finished reading the terms of Earth's offer, and the silence that followed was deafening. "You want us to dissolve the council entirely," Vexitar said finally. "We want you to admit what everyone already knows," Admiral Kim replied. "Your system failed. It created a galaxy where the strong oppressed the weak and called it civilization. We offer something better." "And if we refuse?" Kim's smile was the same cold expression she had worn when authorizing humanity's war machine. "Then you can try to maintain your authority with whatever ships and soldiers you have left." The vote was unanimous. The remaining council members formally dissolved the galactic government and transferred all authority to the new interspecies alliance headquartered on Earth. Chancellor Valaxis watched from his cell as his former empire signed its own death warrant. The being who had once mocked humanity as primitive children now spent his days staring at walls while his civilization crumbled outside. Was it worth it? asked his guard, a human marine named Corporal Park Minho, who brought him daily meals. What? Treating an entire species like children. Was maintaining your superiority worth losing everything? Valaxis had no answer. In his arrogance, he had awakened something that should have remained sleeping. Now his species would spend generations learning to live in a galaxy where humans set the rules. Years passed. The galaxy settled into a new rhythm under human leadership that emphasized cooperation over domination. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves working together on projects that benefited everyone. Engineer Cho Minsu led teams that included alien scientists, building ships and stations that incorporated the best technology from dozens of worlds. His apprentice, technician Bayek Minho, worked alongside beings whose grandparents had never dreamed of such cooperation. "Are we preparing for another war?" Bayek asked one day as they reviewed designs for the latest generation of human ships. Cho smiled, remembering the conversation from years earlier. "We are preparing to make sure no one else needs to fight one." The new ships were indeed formidable, but they served as guardians rather than conquerors. Human fleets patrolled trade routes that had once been controlled by galactic monopolies, ensuring that every species could participate in galactic commerce on equal terms. Ambassador Kang Minho stood once again in a great chamber where species from across the galaxy gathered to discuss their common future. But this chamber was on Earth, and the beings who filled it came as equals rather than subjects. The representatives spoke many languages and came from many worlds, but they shared one common understanding. The galaxy had learned that the most dangerous thing in the universe was not the biggest predator or the most advanced technology. It was underestimating something that knew how to fight. In the end, humanity had given the galaxy exactly what it needed. Not conquest, but justice. Not domination, but protection. Not the rule of the strong over the weak, but a system where strength served to protect rather than oppress. The humans had kept their promise. They had shown the galaxy what their species learned in their darkest hours. But they had also shown something else, something the old council had never understood. They had shown that true strength was knowing when not to use it. The galaxy was at peace. But it was a peace maintained by wolves who had learned to hunt among the stars and who would never again allow the strong to prey upon the weak. Somewhere in the depths of space, new human ships patrolled the borders of civilized space there, crews ready to defend a galaxy that had finally learned to value freedom over order. The age of easy dominance was over. The age of earned respect had begun.